The coffee had gone cold in my hands. I watched the surface, still as glass, reflecting the kitchen light above. Marcus stood by the window, his back to me, shoulders rigid in that navy sweater I'd given him last Christmas, the one that made his eyes look darker, more serious. "I'm going back to her," he said, his voice flat, rehearsed. "To Vanessa." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. The gesture felt automatic, like my body knew what to do even when my mind had stopped working. "I never really loved you, Claire." The mug was warm against my palms. Not hot anymore. I'd poured it 20 minutes ago, before this conversation started. Before my 10-year marriage ended in the time it takes to drink a cup of coffee. "Okay," I heard myself say. Marcus turned then, and I saw something flicker across his face. Surprise, maybe, or disappointment. Perhaps he'd expected tears, or screaming, or the kind of dramatic breakdown that would justify what he was doing. Give him a reason to feel like the victim. I just nodded again.
We need to talk about this trip.
"That's it," he asked.
I'm not sure this is
"That's
the right
all
time."
you're going to say?" I looked at him then, really looked at him. At 42, Marcus had aged well. His dark hair was threaded with silver at the temples, his jawline still sharp. He ran marathons, drank green smoothies, used that expensive face cream I bought him from the department store downtown. He looked like success, like stability, like the kind of man who kept his promises. "What would you like me to say?" I asked, genuinely curious. He blinked. "I just told you I'm leaving you for my ex-girlfriend. That I never loved you. 10 years, Claire. Our entire marriage was." He paused, searching for words. "A mistake. I heard you. And..." I set the mug down carefully on the table. "And I believe you." Something changed in his expression then. Confusion, definitely, but also a hint of anger. He'd armed himself for a battle, and I wasn't fighting back. It made him reckless. "We've been talking for months," he continued, stepping toward the table. "Vanessa and I." She reached out after her divorce, and we just clicked, like no time had passed, like we were always meant to be together. I finished. "Yes," you said. "Don't you care?" His voice rose slightly. "Don't you want to know why? Don't you want to fight for us?" I considered this. Outside the window, Mrs. Chun was walking her terrier, the small white dog pulling her toward the park. It was Tuesday. She always walked him at 7 p.m. on Tuesdays. Some things were reliable that way. "No," I said finally. "I don't think I do." Marcus stared at me. We'd been married for 10 years, together for 12. I knew every expression, every mood. This was the face he made when a junior associate challenged him in a meeting, when someone didn't react the way his carefully constructed arguments predicted they should. "There's something wrong with you," he said quietly. I almost laughed. Almost. Maybe. A normal person would be upset. "I'm sure I will be," I replied. "Later, when you're gone and I'm alone, and it really hits me that my marriage is over. But right now, Marcus, I'm just tired." He crossed his arms. "I want to move out this weekend. Vanessa has a place in Brookline. I'll come back for my things next week." "Okay." Stop saying that. The anger was clear now, hot and bright in his eyes. "Stop being so goddamn agreeable." I stood up, picked up my cold coffee, and walked to the sink, poured it out, rinsed the mug, set it in the dish rack. The mundane motions felt right, felt safe. When I turned around, Marcus was watching me with something that looked almost like fear. "I'm not being agreeable," I said calmly. "I'm accepting reality. You've made your choice. You want to leave. So leave." "Just like that? Were you hoping I'd beg you to stay?" He didn't answer, but his silence was answer enough. "Marcus," I said, leaning against the counter, "if you never loved me, then there's nothing to fight for. You should go be with someone you do love. That makes sense to me. You're being too rational about this." "Would you prefer rational?" "I prefer honest." He slammed his hand on the table, making the salt shaker jump. "I prefer you act like this matters. Like I matter." And there it was. The truth underneath the confession. This wasn't about Vanessa. Not really. This was about Marcus needing me to validate his importance, to prove that leaving would devastate me, to confirm that he was making some grand sacrifice for true love. I was too tired to give him that. "You do matter," I said quietly. "You've been my husband for 10 years. We built a life together. That matters. But if you're telling me that life was built on a lie, that you never loved me, then the kindest thing I can do, for both of us, is let you go." He stared at me for a long moment. Then he grabbed his keys from the counter and walked to the door. "I'll be back Friday to pack," he said without turning around. "Okay." The door closed behind him. Not slammed. Marcus was too controlled for that, but firmly shut. Final. I stood in the kitchen, in the house we bought together 3 years ago, surrounded by the wedding gifts and vacation souvenirs and photographs that documented a marriage that apparently had meant nothing. And I nodded. Part 2. The architecture of 10 years. The house felt different after Marcus left. Not emptier. He'd only taken his overnight bag, his work laptop, his phone charger. All the furniture remained, all the pictures on the walls, all the evidence of our decade together. But the air had changed, grown thinner somehow, easier to breathe. I texted my sister first. Marcus left. Go to stay with Vanessa. It's over. Rachel called immediately. I let it go to voicemail. Then she texted, "What?" "Calling you in 5 minutes." I turned my phone to silent. Instead, I walked through the house, really looking at it for the first time in months, maybe years. The living room with its gray sectional and gallery wall of black and white photos, my choice. The dining room with its live-edge walnut table, his choice. The kitchen with its white subway tiles and brass fixtures, compromise like everything else. In our bedroom, Marcus's side of the closet gaped open. He'd taken 2 suits, several shirts, his running gear. The rest hung untouched, waiting. His nightstand held a biography of Teddy Roosevelt, bookmarked halfway through. A glass of water, now stale. His watch, the nice one I'd given him for our 5th anniversary. I sat on the bed, our bed, and tried to feel something. Sadness, maybe. Anger. Betrayal. The emotions I knew I was supposed to feel when your husband of 10 years announces he never loved you. But there was only a strange, hollow calm. Like I was watching this happen to someone else. My phone buzzed continuously in my pocket. Rachel. My mother. Rachel again. Marcus's mother, which was quick. He must have called her already. My best friend, Jenny. I ignored them all and went to the guest room instead. This had been my office for the past 2 years, since I started freelancing full-time. My desk faced a window overlooking the backyard, and the walls were covered with inspiration boards, sketches, color palettes. I was a textile designer, creating patterns for boutique fabric companies. It was solitary work, meditative. I could lose hours in it. I opened my laptop and stared at the unfinished design on the screen, a botanical pattern inspired by indigenous Australian plants, all Banksia and wattle and dusty corals and sage greens. Due to the client next week. I should work. Work would be good. Work would be normal. Instead, I opened a new document and started typing. Things I remember about falling in love with Marcus. The way he laughed at my terrible jokes, how he brought me coffee in bed every Sunday, his passion when talking about architecture. He could make a parking garage sound romantic. The time he drove 4 hours to surprise me when I was sad how safe I felt when he held me. I paused, reading the list. These were real memories, real moments. They'd happen. I hadn't imagined them. So when they stopped, I started a new list. Things I remember about the last year with Marcus. The way he stayed late at work most nights, how he stopped asking about my day, the separate bedtimes that started 6 months ago, the way we talk about everything except anything that mattered, how I started feeling lonely even when he was home. My phone buzzed again. This time I looked. Rachel. If you don't call me in the next 10 minutes, I'm coming over. I called her. Claire. Oh my God, what the hell happened? Marcus is leaving me for Vanessa. They've been talking for months. He says he never loved me. Silence on the other end. Then what? That's what he said. Vanessa? His ex from college? That Vanessa? The same. He said he never loved you? Correct. More silence. Rachel was rarely silent. She was a litigation attorney, paid to have words for everything. Are you okay? She asked finally, her voice careful. I think so. Maybe. I don't know yet. Claire, that's insane. He can't just, after 10 years, he can't just say he never loved you. That's not how love works. That's not how marriage works. Apparently, it's how our marriage worked. No. Rachel's lawyer voice kicked in, sharp and certain. No. People don't spend 10 years with someone they don't love. They don't buy houses with them and go on vacations and meet each other's families and... This is bullshit, Claire. He's rewriting history to justify what he's doing. I considered this. Maybe. Not maybe. Definitely. He's having a midlife crisis or an affair or both, and he's telling himself this story where he was trapped in a loveless marriage, so he doesn't have to feel guilty about cheating on his wife. He didn't cheat, I said. He was very clear about that. They just talked. Rachel snorted. Right. They just talked. For months, while he was married to you. That's called an emotional affair, Claire. Was it? I genuinely didn't know. The rules seemed blurry. Do you want to come over? Rachel asked. I can be there in 20 minutes. We can drink wine and eat ice cream and talk about what an asshole he is. Not tonight, I said. I think I need to just sit with this for a while. Sit with it? Her voice rose with concern. Claire, your husband just left you. You shouldn't be alone. I won't be alone. I'll be with myself. That's being alone. You know what I mean. She sighed. Fine, but I'm calling you tomorrow morning. And if you don't answer, I'm showing up with bagels and refusing to leave until you talk to me. Deal. After we hung up, I looked at my list again, added one more. Things I'm feeling right now. And then I sat there, cursor blinking, unable to think of a single thing to write. Part 3, the ex-girlfriend. I Googled Vanessa Martinez at 11 p.m., alone in bed, knowing it was a terrible idea. She was easy to find. Successful real estate agent in Brookline, specializing in luxury properties. Her website showed her smiling in a navy blazer, teeth perfect, hair a glossy dark curtain. She looked like someone who closed deals, who made things happen, who got what she wanted. She was beautiful. More beautiful than I remember from the one photo I'd seen years ago, when Marcus and I first started dating, and he'd show me pictures from college. Back then, Vanessa had been softer, rounder, younger. Now she was polished, sophisticated. The kind of woman who probably never wore sweatpants or forgot to floss or cried at insurance commercials. I clicked through her recent sales. $1 million homes with chef's kitchens and spa bathrooms. The descriptions were written in her voice, warm but professional, knowledgeable but accessible. She seemed competent, likable even. I hated her, then felt guilty for hating her, then hated myself for feeling guilty. Her Instagram was public. I scrolled through months of posts, elegant cocktails and artfully arranged salads, workout selfies with captions about wellness and self-care, photos from open houses, from charity galas, from weekend trips to Cape Cod. And then, starting about 3 months ago, subtle changes, more personal posts, photos of coffee cups and sunsets and books, the kind of content that suggested someone was on her mind, someone she was sharing moments with, even from a distance. There was one photo from 2 weeks ago that made me stop scrolling, a picture of the Boston skyline at dusk, caption reading, "Sometimes the best views are the ones you thought you'd lost forever." Marcus had been in Boston that week for a conference. I closed the app and set my phone face down on the nightstand. The ceiling fan turned slowly above me, the same rhythm it had turned every night for 3 years. Marcus used to complain it was too fast, made him dizzy. I'd slowed it down for him. Now I could speed it up again if I wanted. Such a small thing. Such a stupid thing to think about. But it sat in my chest like something heavy. All the small compromises, the tiny accommodations, the constant calibration of living with another person. Had any of it mattered? If he'd never loved me, had every adjustment been pointless? Every time I'd turn down the fan, or watch his choice of movie, or cook the dinners he preferred instead of the ones I wanted, had all of it been for nothing? Or worse, had he resented every compromise I'd made because they had come from someone he didn't love? My phone lit up with a text. Jenny, Rachel told me. I'm so sorry. Here if you need me. Then my mother, honey, please call me when you're ready. I love you. Then, surprisingly, Marcus's mother, Patricia. Claire, I don't know what to say. I'm heartbroken. You'll always be family to me. That one made my eyes burn. Patricia had welcomed me from the start, taught me to make her arroz con pollo, insisted I call her mom. We had lunch together once a month, just the two of us. She sent me articles about textile design and always remembered my birthday. Had Marcus told her he never loved me? Or had he spun a different story for his mother, one where we'd simply grown apart? I typed back, thank you. That means a lot. Then I turned my phone off completely. The house creaked and settled around me. I'd never noticed how many sounds it made at night. The fridge humming, the heating system clicking on, the old pipes groaning. When Marcus was here, his breathing had covered these sounds. His presence had filled the spaces, made the emptiness less noticeable. Now the emptiness was loud. I got up and went to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, drank it standing at the sink. Through the window, I could see the back deck we'd built last summer. Marcus had wanted it bigger, wanted to host parties, barbecues. I'd wanted something smaller, more intimate. We'd compromised, medium-sized, enough for a table and chairs and not much else. We'd hosted exactly 2 dinners on it before the weather turned cold. I'd made a panzanella salad for those dinners, spent hours getting it right. Marcus had complimented it. Told our friends I was an amazing cook. Everyone had laughed and eaten and stayed late into the evening. It had felt good. It had felt like we were building something. Had he felt nothing? Had he stood there, arm around my waist, smiling at our friends, feeling nothing? Or, and this thought arrived quietly, almost gently, had he felt something then, but convinced himself later that he hadn't? Was he rewriting those moments now, editing out the love to make his exit easier? Rachel's words came back. People don't spend 10 years with someone they don't love. But maybe they did. Maybe people did it all the time. Maybe love was more complicated than I'd thought, more conditional, more subject to revision and regret. Maybe Marcus had loved me once, in his way, and then stopped. And now he needed to believe he never had, because otherwise he was a villain of the story. Otherwise he was a man who promised forever and changed his mind. I went back to bed. Tomorrow I decided I would cry. Tomorrow I would break down and feel everything Rachel expected me to feel. Tomorrow I would be devastated and angry and hurt. But tonight I was just tired. And strangely, unexpectedly, just a little bit relieved. Part 4, the narrative. I didn't cry the next day. Instead, I worked. I finished the Australian botanical pattern, sent it to the client, started sketches for the next project. I answered Rachel's calls and Jenny's texts with brief reassurances that I was fine, really, just needed time. I ordered Thai food for dinner and ate it straight from the containers while watching a documentary about coral reefs. I didn't think about Marcus or Vanessa or the 10 years I'd apparently wasted. Or I tried not to. But thoughts have a way of sneaking in through cracks in your concentration. Between brushstrokes and color decisions and the hypnotic voice of David Attenborough, I kept wondering, when exactly had he stopped loving me? Was there a specific moment? A particular day when he looked at me and felt nothing? Or had it been gradual, a slow fade I'd been too busy or too blind to notice? On Thursday morning, Marcus texted, "Coming by at 2 p.m. tomorrow to pack. Won't take long. Would appreciate if you could make yourself scarce." Make myself scarce. Like I was an inconvenience in my own home. I texted back, "I'll be here. This is my house too." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then, fine. That afternoon, I did something I hadn't done in years. I pulled out our wedding album. It was in the bottom drawer of the TV console, underneath our tax documents and the instruction manuals for appliances we no longer owned. The white leather cover was slightly yellowed, the pages stiff. Our wedding had been small, just 60 people in the garden of an inn in Vermont. October, peak foliage, impossibly beautiful. I'd worn a simple dress, tea-length, with my grandmother's pearls. Marcus had worn a charcoal suit and couldn't stop smiling. I flipped through the photos slowly, studying each one like evidence. There, Marcus looking at me during our first dance, eyes soft. Was that love, or just the appropriate expression for a wedding day? There, his hands gentle on my face as we cut the cake. Affection, certainly. But love? There, us laughing at something Marcus's brother said during his toast. We looked happy. We looked like people who would last. I traced my finger over the photo. I looked so young. 28, full of certainty, believing I'd found my person. Marcus was 30, starting to make partner track at his firm, talking about the future in concrete terms. We'd fit together so neatly then, our timelines aligning, our goals compatible. Had that been enough? Had we mistaken compatibility for love? Or, again, that gentle, unwanted thought, had there been real love once, before it got buried under mortgages and career stress and the slow accumulation of ordinary disappointments? My phone rang. Patricia. I almost didn't answer. But Patricia had always been kind to me, and kindness felt rare right now. Claire, sweetheart, how are you holding up? I'm okay, I said automatically. No, you're not. And that's okay, too. Her voice was warm but firm, the tone she used when she wasn't accepting nonsense. I wanted you to know that I called Marcus yesterday and told him he's making the biggest mistake of his life. Something loosened in my chest. You did. I did. I also told him that if he thinks he never loved you, he's either lying to himself or he's forgotten what love looks like. Probably both. I sat down on the couch. Unexpected tears suddenly threatening. Thank you. I mean it, Claire. I've watched you two together for 10 years. I've seen how he looked at you when you weren't paying attention. I've seen how you took care of him when he was stressed, how patient you were with his moods. That was love. Real love. The everyday kind. Maybe it wasn't enough, I said quietly. Or maybe, Patricia said, my son is going through something and making terrible choices and hurting people who don't deserve it. That happens too. We talked for 20 more minutes. She told me about her own divorce 30 years ago, before she met Marcus's father, about how her first husband had left her for a younger woman, said similar things, that it had never been right, that he'd always had doubts. 6 months later, Patricia said, he called crying, said he'd made a mistake, begged to come back. I told him no, not because I didn't love him anymore, but because I'd learned I could survive without him, and that felt more important. Did you hate him? I asked. For a while, she admitted, but mostly I felt sorry for him. He threw away something real for something shiny and new, and by the time he realized the difference, it was too late. After we hung up, I sat with the wedding album open on my lap, thinking about Patricia's words, about real love versus shiny love, about the difference between depth and sparkle. My marriage to Marcus had been real. It had been comfortable, stable, predictable. We had routines and inside jokes and a shared history. We'd known each other's coffee orders and how to navigate each other's families, and which side of the bed we each preferred. But when had we last surprised each other? When had we last stayed up late talking about dreams instead of logistics? When had we last looked at each other with wonder instead of familiarity? Maybe that's what Vanessa offered. Surprise. Wonder. The electric feeling of someone still unknown, still being discovered. Maybe Marcus had confused the end of the honeymoon phase with the end of love itself. Or maybe, and I had to consider this possibility, maybe he was right. Maybe we had been more like roommates than lovers. Maybe I'd been so focused on maintaining stability that I'd missed the slow death of passion. Maybe we both settled for good enough when we deserved extraordinary. The thought didn't hurt as much as I expected. Part 5, the archaeology. Friday at 2 p.m., Marcus arrived with boxes and packing tape. I was in the kitchen, making coffee I didn't want, just to have something to do with my hands. He let himself in with his key, called out a tentative hello, like he was visiting a stranger's house. In here, I said. He appeared in the doorway, and we looked at each other for the first time since Tuesday night. He'd gotten a haircut. He looked tired, but also somehow lighter, like he'd put down something heavy. I won't take long, he said. Take whatever time you need. He nodded, then stood there awkwardly. Could I have some coffee? I poured him a cup without asking how he took it. I knew. Cream, no sugar. Some knowledge stays. He accepted it with quiet thanks, and we stood there, two people who'd shared a bed for 10 years, now uncertain of even basic proximity. I'm going to start in the bedroom, he said finally. Okay. He disappeared upstairs. I heard drawers opening, hangers scraping, the sound of zippers, the audio of a life being dismantled. I should have left, like he'd asked. Should have gone to a coffee shop or a park or anywhere else. But something kept me in that kitchen, listening to him pack. After an hour, he came down with 3 boxes. Can we talk? He asked. We're talking now. I mean really talk. About everything. I gestured to the living room. We sat on opposite ends of the sectional, a careful distance between us. I owe you an explanation, he started. Do you? Yes. He set his coffee cup on the table. I need you to understand this isn't about you. You didn't do anything wrong. Except marry someone who didn't love me. He flinched. That came out wrong. What I meant was... What did you mean, Marcus? I interrupted. I've been trying to figure that out for 3 days. What exactly did you mean when you said you never loved me? He was quiet for a long moment. I meant that it was never the way it should have been. The way I felt with Vanessa back in college. That intensity. That certainty. We never had that. We dated for 2 years before we got married. You proposed to me. You planned a future with me. And you're saying you felt nothing that whole time. Not nothing. I cared about you. I still care about you. You're kind and talented and beautiful, but you didn't love me. Not the way. He stopped, started again. Not the way I think I should have. The way you love Vanessa. Yes. I nodded slowly, processing this. So you're saying that our entire marriage was based on you caring about me, liking me, but not loving me. When you say it like that, it sounds true. He looked away. I thought I could make enough. The caring, the partnership. I thought that was what mature love looked like. And it was good, Claire. We were good together. But then Vanessa reached out and... He paused, searching for words. It was like waking up, like I'd been sleepwalking through my life, and suddenly I was awake again. How poetic. I'm trying to be honest. No, I said, surprised by the anger finally arriving, hot and sharp. You're trying to make yourself feel better about what you're doing. You're trying to rewrite our history so you can be the protagonist instead of the villain. That's not. Yes, it is. I stood up, needing to move. You're telling yourself you never loved me, so you don't have to admit you're leaving a marriage that was working for something newer and shinier. You're convincing yourself we were wrong from the start, so you don't have to take responsibility for giving up on us. We didn't have anything to give up. His voice rose. That's what I'm trying to tell you. There was no passion, no real connection. We were just existing next to each other. And whose fault is that? I shot back. Relationships take work, Marcus. They take effort and attention, and choosing each other every day. When did you stop choosing us? When did you decide it was easier to check out than to try? I never checked out. You absolutely did. You stayed late at work constantly. You stopped asking about my life. You spent more time training for marathons than talking to me. You were physically here, but emotionally gone for at least a year. He opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. And maybe I checked out too. I continued, the words coming faster now. Maybe I stopped trying as hard. Maybe I got comfortable and complacent and forgot to make you feel special. But the difference is, I'm not standing here saying I never loved you. I'm not erasing our entire history to justify my choices. So you're saying you still love me? He looked almost hopeful. I don't know what I feel right now. I said honestly, I'm angry and hurt and confused. But I know that I loved you for a long time. Real love, the kind that shows up and tries and forgives and compromises. Maybe it wasn't perfect, but it was real. We sat with that for a moment. I'm sorry, Marcus said finally, quietly. I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry I said the way I did. You deserve better than that. Yes, I agreed. I did. He finished packing in silence. 6 boxes total, plus a guitar on his bike, and a lamp his grandmother had given him. Not much to show for 10 years. At the door, he turned back. What will you do with the house? Keep it, I said. I can afford the mortgage on my own. I'll still pay half until we figure out the divorce. We don't need to figure out right now. No, he agreed. But soon. Soon. He left. I watched him load his boxes into his car, watched him drive away, and still no tears. Just a strange sense of clarity, like fog lifting. Part 6, the inventory. Over the next week, I made lists. It started as a practical thing, dividing assets, figuring out who owned what, untangling 10 years of combined finances. But it became something else, something almost meditative. An inventory not just of stuff, but of everything our marriage had been. Physical assets. House mine, I decided. He could have his equity, but I was keeping the house. Savings account, split evenly. His car, 2022 Tesla. My car, 2019 Subaru. Wedding gifts, who remembered who gave what? Furniture, mostly from IKEA or Target, nothing precious. Art, my textile pieces, his architectural prints. Books, his were business and history. Mine were design and fiction. No overlap. Intangible things. Inside jokes that would no longer make sense, shared language of looks and gestures, memories that would now be contested territory in-laws who had to choose sides, couple friends who would probably drift away, routines that would need to be rebuilt alone, future we'd planned that would never happen. Things I'd compromised on. Living in Boston instead of Portland, his job, getting a dog, he was allergic, though I suspected he just didn't want one. Having children, we'd been waiting for the right time for 5 years. Where we spent holidays, always with his family. What we watched on TV, so many action movies. Temperature of the bedroom, he liked it cold. How we spent weekends, his marathons, his schedule. The last list surprised me. Not because it was long, but because I'd never really noticed how much I'd adjusted myself around him. It had felt natural at the time, like what you do when you love someone. But looking at it now, I wondered, had Marcus made any lists like this? Had he compromised anything for me? I thought about it, tried to be fair. Things Marcus compromised on. Going to gallery openings and craft fairs, he found them boring. Eating vegetarian meals, I'd been pescatarian for 3 years. Having a cat, he had preferred no pets. Letting me paint an accent wall in the bedroom, he'd wanted everything neutral. The lists weren't even close to balanced. Had that been the problem? Had I made myself smaller and smaller until there was nothing left for him to love? Or had he simply taken all my compromises as his due, never thinking to reciprocate? Jenny came over on Thursday with wine and takeout. We sat on the deck, the medium-sized compromise deck, and she let me talk through my lists. You know what I think? She said, refilling our glasses. I think you're being too analytical about this. Not everything can be reduced to an inventory. I like inventories. They make sense. Love doesn't make sense. She leaned back in her chair, looking at me with a frankness that came from 15 years of friendship. And honestly, from the outside, your marriage looked kind of beige. I blinked. Beige. Comfortable. Safe. But not exactly vibrant. You were always accommodating him, working around his schedule, making excuses for why he couldn't come to things. And you seemed fine with it, but I always wonder if you were really happy or just content. Content is good, I said defensively. Is it though? Is content enough for a whole life? I thought about my work, the patterns I designed. Content was what happened when you played it safe, stuck to conventional color palettes and familiar motifs. The designs I was proudest of, the ones that got the best response, were the ones where I'd taken risks, been bold, trusted my vision instead of trying to please everyone. Maybe not, I admitted. Don't get me wrong, Jenny continued. Marcus was a good guy in a lot of ways. Stable, responsible. But he was also kind of self-centered. Everything revolved around him and his career and his hobbies. When's the last time he came to one of your shows? Or asked about your work in detail? Or planned something specifically because you enjoy it? I couldn't remember. I think. Jenny said carefully, you might have been lonely for a lot longer than you realized. And maybe part of you is actually relieved this is over, even if you're not ready to admit it yet. That thought had been circling the edges of my consciousness for days, not quite landing. Now it's settled in, undeniable. I think I